Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you for coming. Onegaishimasu. Tonight is the discussion group for the fourth of Shinichi Suzuki Sensei's 4 principles. So what? Do nothing, be natural, and tonight, don't worry, be happy. Next, I will read you Tohei Sensei's Shokushu number 11, the essence of ki. We begin with the number 1 in counting all things. It is impossible that this one, even reduced to infinitely small particles of itself, can ever become 0. Because just as something cannot come from nothing, 1 can never arise from 0. Universal ki is the infinite gathering of infinitely small particles. This universal ki condensed becomes an individual, which further condensed becomes the 1 point in the lower abdomen, and which in turn infinitely condensed never becomes 0. In this way, we are one with the universe. Thus, we realize the essence of ki. So before we go further with our discussion of don't worry, be happy, I'd like to do some ki breathing. Please sit up straight. Don't worry, be happy. I suppose that this is a kind of even-mindedness, maybe we could say, or maybe equanimity. It implies, doesn't it, not to get trapped worrying about something that has very little consequence. Not only that, but when we worry, of course, we are thinking about finding a fix for something that we are not able to fix. Well, either not able to fix because we really can't fix anything, or because even if we did fix it, in the long run, in the bigger picture, there's no consequence to it. It might not feel like it today, particularly if you feel a compelling urge within you to make this change, to concern yourself deeply about making something happen. So this is the main thing that Suzuki Sensei was talking about, why he made these four, what he called four principles. Because we all have a habit of getting caught up in the moment and losing our perspective. So in this sense, it really just wants you to maintain a kind of a perspective. We say, every teacher says we should be living in the now. Now I say this too, please, let's live in the moment, this moment, now. Of course, there is no moment that we can point to. It's just always this, what's happening right now, here. And when we're not thinking about the past, we're not thinking about the future, we can just be here. Do you notice that when you worry about something, you're always in the past or the future? It's worrying about something that you said or did that you felt maybe you shouldn't have done, or you could have done better. And then it extends to the future, thinking about all the things that might go wrong, what someone else might say to you, or something might not work out right. Or it's always somewhere else besides here now. And not only that, but it always seems to include a kind of an arrogance, a kind of making yourself the essential doer of everything, the essential fixer, the essential one. This is very arrogant. I've been talking about gratitude a lot lately, and a few people ask me, like, how do you get that? How do you make gratitude? One person even said to me, he didn't really feel gratitude, except to specific people at specific times, but a kind of an overall gratitude. I think that it's very important to realize that without every other person that you know, your parents, your friends, your teachers, doctors, dentists, let's say, even, every person you know, without them, you would not even be here. You would not even be here. So that's in a relative sense. But in absolute sense, they're only here for you. So, and in every moment, in every now moment, or let's say this the other way, in every moment that you're worrying, you're forgetting to respect the one you're worrying about. You're forgetting that they're only here for you. They only exist to demonstrate to you who you are, what's going on with you, what you're like, what you're really like. So only if we have a real sense of that can we feel gratitude at all. in a general sense. Like this is what Suzuki Sensei meant when he said Shinken Shobu, life and death. This means being without these people, we're completely interconnected with each other. We're completely dependent, interdependent on every other human being. Without these other human beings, you couldn't be. So life and death practice means recognizing that. And then this brings us a whole different kind of appreciation. Of course, this is all about not worrying, but second part of that is be happy. So can you just be happy, please? Just be happy. Well, that's maybe not so easy. If you're busy worrying, you can't be happy. So maybe the answer to be happy is the same as the answer to don't worry, which is to be in a state present and be in a state of gratitude for being alive, for having this opportunity to discover why you're having this opportunity. What do you say? So what? It may be difficult. Basically just means don't get too wrapped up in things. Don't over emotionalize things. Take things with a grain of salt. Don't get too carried away. Do nothing. Don't think that you are the center of doing. Things get done. That's true. Change happens. But it's generally not because of us, but in spite of us. And to learn to be skillful about doing, accomplishing great things, as Toi Sensei talks about. To learn to be skillful about that is to learn to allow it to take place. You know, someone was asking me about do you ever have the urge, like the compelling urge to correct someone? Yeah, I think everybody does. But most of the people that you have the compelling urge, that we have the compelling urge to correct, didn't ask us for that correction. They didn't make themselves available to you for that reason. It may be true that you have something valuable to tell them, and it may be true that you're even more experienced than them and you have some wisdom that you could impart to them. It may also not be true. You might think it's true and it's not true. It may be true. And this has to do with don't worry, be happy, as well as do nothing. Even if they ask you, like with you folks, you're students in the dojo. So you come to my dojo when I'm teaching. In this case, it's a virtual dojo. You basically are asking. So it's okay for me to say these things because you asked me to, okay? But my family doesn't ask me this. So it's not okay for me to say these things to my family unless they ask. Even if I have what feels like a compelling reason. Because this only works, and put yourself in their position, it only works when they're open to it, right? So otherwise, you don't want to hear it. You're not interested. Thank you very much, never mind. Even when you come here and ask me, and I tell you, sometimes you think, Oh, never mind. I don't want to hear this. This happens to you too. Does it happen to you now and then? It has happened to me with teachers before. Okay, so all of this has to do with, so what? Do nothing, be natural. Again, these sound like commands, don't they? Like, do nothing, be natural, don't worry, be happy. These are things I'm telling you to do. Well, how do you do these things? When one of the four things is don't do anything, do nothing. So the whole teaching around these four principles, and in a larger sense, my teacher, Suzuki Sensei's whole teaching for his life is basically learning how to leave yourself alone, to keep your hands out of the pond and let the pond calm down by itself. You allow the universe to have its way with you. You allow the universe, we allow the universe to live our life and speak for us when it's time to speak. Basically, the rule is, if you feel the compelling urge to speak, do not speak. When you have when the time comes, the other person will let you know it's time to speak, and then you could say your great piece of wisdom if you can still remember it, if you still have that urge, right? Don't you think so? So this is the end of this four principles. So I want to ask you to speak about it yourself, not just me. I want to hear what you have to say. You may have a question, you may have a comment. Next week it will be on to something else. I think next Friday night maybe key testing, the meaning of key testing. So can someone please speak up?
Hi, Sensei. This is Vernon from Lokahi Key.
Hi, Vernon.
And the urge for getting involved or to, that's more future talking, but being like not worrying about what would be in the future and that instance of what would happen if you didn't speak up. And sometimes it's reflecting on should I do it or should I do it is a choice of words of trying to choose, and that's that can be future and past confusion.
So, okay, there's a famous movie that came out a few years ago called The Bridge of Spies. I don't know if you saw this, if anybody saw this. It's with Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance, two really good actors. And this is about Mark Rylance plays a Russian spy who has been captured by the United States. And Tom Hanks is his lawyer. And Tom Hanks is explaining to him what they're going to do to him. They're possibly going to execute him. And he says to, and the character Mark Rylance is playing, the spy, seems to be not worrying about this. He seems to be quite calm about it. And this really bothers Tom Hanks, his character, and he says, excuse me, but do you understand that they may kill you? They may execute you for this? Why are you not worried? And the spy says to him, would it help?
I see.
Yeah, it when it will help, you'll know. It will be said. See, the dilemma that we are tortured with about this question you ask, should I or should I not? This dilemma is a false dilemma. And because whatever you do, you're just getting in the way. But on the other hand, you are the center of the universe. So whatever you do is it. So both of these things are happening at the same time. To be skillful, to be a master, is to understand this and respect it and learn to listen. So that even when you're speaking, you're listening. You're always listening to see, so you're always allowing the evolution to take place, not trying to get in and fix the broken part that you see. Because our view is so small. We just don't see. Maybe I can say you should take a long view, or you see the big picture, but we cannot see the big picture. It's too complex. It's too huge. There's too many implications of every single thing that happens, even if it's a tiny little thing. Should I kill this mosquito on my desk or not? No matter how small, you cannot see the implications of this. In a relative sense and in an ultimate sense. We don't see the possibilities, do we? We can't. So the whole idea of deliberating this question is one of great arrogance to me. So, and the reason I talk about gratitude so much is it seems to me it's to recognize and respect is a path to humility. A path to not getting in the way as much as we tend to, all of us.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, thank you. Someone else, please.
Sensei, I have a question for you.
Hello, yes.
So, you know, it's always easier said than done. And do you have any techniques or approaches of helping people, like when they do notice, oh shit, I'm worrying about this too much, or I'm not in the moment, what can I do to, hit the reset button? Can you expound on something like that?
Well, yeah, keep one point.
But again, keep one point. Keep one point. I'm trying. It's not working.
Yeah, the one thing that everybody always says to me is, yes, I understand, but how do I do that? So actually, if you understand, then you understand there's nothing to do. It goes back to this. Toy Sensei gave us these 4 basic principles. Keep one point. Do not, oh wait, that's Suzuki Sensei. Keep one point, relax completely, keep weight on your side, extend ki. And tells us, okay, these are just 4 ways of looking at the same thing. It's resetting. You use the word reset. It is resetting. When we're really going crazy, I mean, some people would just say, take a deep breath. And that alone is a great resetter. Just take a deep breath. But of course, this thing will come back and come back and come back. So keeping one point is something we do right at the moment. But he says keep. So to me, that means maintain. It means rest in this one point forever. As you said, easier said than done. But it's that we practice, all right? Nobody's good at this in the beginning. Everybody is really, really bad at it. Or in other words, it's really difficult to become skillful at it because it's changing the way our mind operates. So learning to keep one point and reset, I mean, learning to notice when it's even necessary to do that is a big deal, right? Most people don't even know there's such a thing that is even required of us, right? Once you do recognize that it's a requirement, that it would be advisable to shut up and sit down and take a deep breath And then you can practice doing that. You can practice, keep on point. Like, you know, Shinichi Sensei does this exercise with us. And he, when he's testing keep on point, when he's testing a key test, and you know, your 1 point comes up. He says your 1 point is up a little bit, right? And so everybody looks like, okay, what do I do about that? Everybody tries to get serious and do something. But this is not it at all. And he says you have to become skillful enough that when you reset, it's like that, instant. It's not like it takes you have to go somewhere and be alone for an hour and get over it. That's just self-indulgence. No, he says, just let it go right now. That's it. It's done. So that means, of course, he's very skillful at this, and he understands, as he should be and should. And so should you and I. We need to practice this so much that instantly we can let go of it, not to ignore it or to hide it, or, you know, this is not burying something. This is not saying you don't have feelings or don't recognize. It's knowing and being in it and accepting it for what it is. And this is our practice. So, okay, one other thing. So I don't know who said this, but somebody said this. Maybe the Dalai Lama or somebody said, you know, there's three things that are really important: love, humor, and work. We gotta have all three of those things to be happy. Why is humor so important? Humor is important because of these four principles of Suzuki Sensei's. He was a very happy, humorous person, right? You've been talking about him a lot lately. And anybody who was with him all the time knew that he didn't take things too seriously in the wrong kind of way. He could be deadly serious, and he could get to the point really rapidly for you if that's what was required. But about himself, he had a great sense of humor. And that's a lightness of being. That's a way to allow ourselves to not worry, to not get caught up in it all. And again, this is my take on his teaching, is really in these four principles. That's why I wanted to talk about them, because he spent his whole life learning to take things lightly, to be light, not to disrespect, of course. It's easy to misunderstand this. It's like when I say don't mind about something, people think that means don't care. No, that doesn't mean don't care. It means don't mind. Care, but don't mind. So take it seriously, but have a sense of humor about it. You know, train hard, but enjoy it. You know, all these things that are second nature to a person that trains a lot, probably, or that enjoys training a lot. If you love training Aikido, you already understand these principles. You already understand what he was talking about. Excuse me. Well, so this answers your question?
Yes, Sensei, thank you.
Okay.
Sensei, this is Prakash.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hi. So Prakash from Shunshin Kandojo. Your last comments kind of answered my question, because I was thinking, well, given the severity of this pandemic that we're living in, would one not seem callous to be not worrying and being happy in the face of so much suffering? You know, but what you said is, you know, care but don't mind. You know, so that clarified for me.
Don't let it get the best of you.
Yeah, and then your comments on silence reminded me of the comment by Abraham Lincoln. You know, rather be silent and risk looking a fool than speak and leave no shadow of a doubt.
Yes. Why was it in the old days they would come up with all these great things? I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. You know, I have to say, well, I'll tell everyone the other day, a good friend of mine is a Tibetan Buddhist. And so she's been telling me about her teacher for years and years and years. I never saw him. I didn't know who he was. I'm not a Tibetan Buddhist, so to speak. So suddenly there he was. She sent me some connection. And I saw this young man, he's only maybe 40 years old, speaking for maybe just 10 minutes. And I was incredibly taken with this person. And he didn't say anything, really, no words like Abe Lincoln's there, no brilliant words, nothing really. He was just kind of talking to people. And he had a microphone and he was sitting, you know how they do in Tibetan, they're kind of like you. See where you're sitting here? Yeah, like that. Like they're the one. It's good. I like it. And I wondered, what is it that compels me so much about this person? I'd love to listen to him all night long. And it was his humor, his sense of humor about himself, the dilemma of practice, the paradox of practice, that you have to have a goal and you have to train hard and go for it. And if you don't do that, you'll never wake up. But it's the very thing that will keep you from waking up. This is humorous. This is all koans. Koan is something that can't be answered, right? With a conceptual answer or a logical answer. These are humorous. These bring out the humor in us. So when we feel humility and we feel a sense of gratitude, then to me, is what goes right with this is not being serious about yourself. It's humor. It's having a lightness of being, and you can't just make that. You know, you can't create that. It's because it's already here. It's not something that we're missing. We just maybe leave it alone a little bit. Get over it. We say, get over yourself. You know, get over it a little bit, and don't worry. Be happy. Yes, it is. This is a very trying time, and there are people suffering all over, and that can be very worrying. That it's not that doesn't concern me. It's not that I don't care that people are like that, but my small mind, my selfish mind, the mind that would mull over that, cannot find a solution. That will not help anybody. If I care, then if I were to be able to sit with them for 5 minutes, what's the best thing I could do? Tell them a joke. The best thing I could do is lighten their load a little bit. So I think that this implies something really profound. These teachings from Suzuki Sensei are really profound to me because they open me up so much to you know, I've been one that could take himself very seriously at times. Just ask my people that know me. But so this has been my time I spend with Suzuki Sensei. And when I say that, I mean the time since he died too, because he taught me all those years, but still he's teaching me. And when I have to do something like teaching these 4 principles to you guys, teaching, so to speak, when I'm covering these things, I'm covering them for me, you know, too. So this is I'm sharing this with you because this is because how much I love Suzuki Sensei, what he was able to impart to me, which had to be really difficult, and yet he was able to cut through all of my my arrogance and know-it-allness, and and help me understand how to be a little bit more lighthearted and humorous. And the key is these 4 principles. Okay? Someone else? Thank you, Prakash.
Thank you, Sensei.
You may say something. Toby Vogels, speak to me.
Well, that's difficult now, Sensei, when you said you have to, the decision of whether to say.
What is this on your face? Your mute button is on. No, I can't hear you. Your mute button is on. There. Speak.
Like this.
There it is.
I would like to look a little wiser, Sensei.
Good job. You're looking wiser every time I see you. It must be the beard.
I guess it is. Well, the problem of saying something now is your whole story about whether you should or should not. Whether the decision. But the problem with being too serious for me is that I'm always judging. There's always this little voice in my head that makes it difficult for me to decide whether the thing that I'm experiencing is true or not. Is this the voice saying, okay, this is it, this is what you're feeling, or am I actually feeling something here, experiencing something? For instance, when I sit, my voice is telling, wait, this is what he meant. This is what they are talking about, isn't it? So is this my imagination creating this experience, or is it real?
Give me an example of daily life where this
So when I'm walking, for instance, I love to walk in the woods. And then I start thinking about the training and the practice that we have and the stories and so on. And then somehow something catches my eye. For instance, a tree, and it looks it looks different. Is this my imagination saying, okay, in this story that I was talking about to myself, am I seeing this in a different way, or is it real?
What's the difference? Oh yeah, don't really be happy. Of course, everything is real and nothing is real, okay? So everything in the relative world is a kind of like looking through a screen. It's not that it's not happening, it's not that it's not reality. I mean, you can say it's reality from this, but there's always something peeking through if you really look. Just like if you go look in the mirror at your face, for instance, and just stay there and look for 15 minutes, you will realize that you don't really see your face at a glance when you're shaving or not shaving, brushing teeth, or just looking at yourself. You don't really look exactly like that. You do, but there's much more to it that you begin to notice if you really look. Same thing's true of a sunset or a living tree, like in the garden here. I have trees. And if I just sit with the tree and look at it for a long time, just like you were talking about, of course, it begins to, begin to see the possibilities that life has brought to me through this tree, that is bringing to this moment through the tree. There's all kinds of things that are coming up and can come up. Those are the possibilities that wouldn't if it weren't for that tree. And it's so much more profound than whatever you were worrying about when you were walking along there. But it's not divorced from it. It's pointing to it. Everything is like that. Everything is revelatory. Every moment. That revelatory means it's revealing something. There is nothing wasted in this life. There's nothing wasted on earth. There's no moment, because that's all there is the moment. So how could it be, oh, this moment is not important, but another one is? How could that be? So whatever it is that's happening to you, it's revealing something. And that's why I always say, just notice. You know, don't try to figure stuff out. That's always like worrying. It's debating. It's going back and forth about something. Just be quiet. Keep on point. You know how to keep on point. Just keep on point. And listen very carefully. Notice what's happening. Not just inside you, because there's no real difference. It's all you. You're perceiving it all, so it's all you. It's not like that out there is different. Relatively, there's a difference, but actually there's no difference. It's all me. Everything I'm experiencing here is revealing, offering a revelation to me. If I can just see it, if I can just listen and be calm enough and humble enough and grateful enough, then I will begin to notice. That's in itself is the practice. That's a practice. Don't you think so?
Hi, Sensei.
Yeah, you don't really need more instruction than that. If you just practice that. But next time I see you, you'll say, now, how did you say that last time? Of course, that's why we have a relationship. That's why we're together. So we can, and we can constantly be supporting each other this way. So please support me. Forever. I might become very poor. You need to support me. Okay, so we have only about 5 minutes more. Would someone like to say something else? Or ask a question? Or have I explained everything perfectly?
I have a question, Sensei. Fincher from Maui. You've kind of referred to a lot of teaching comments, and if you're a teacher and you embrace these principles, and I'm thinking sort of specifically of do nothing, how does that, or how should that impact your teaching style?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. You know the answer to that already. Okay, so how does it affect your teaching style? So when I just love to tell stories, just like every other teacher. So Suzuki Sensei turned over the teaching to me at some point, and not without preparation. There were years and years and years of preparation. But I did my best to teach exactly what he taught. I taught on Friday, he taught on Wednesday. And so I would just like teach what he taught on Wednesday. I'd repeat it on Friday. I was very good at repeating just what he was teaching. And it was okay, it worked all right, I thought things were going well. And then one of the other teachers, Larry Shishido Sensei, who was much older than I was and more experienced, came and sat and watched a class that I taught. And afterward he said, come over, come talk to me for a minute. And I said, yes, Sensei, thank you for coming. How did you like the class? Well, that was a good rendition of Suzuki Sensei's teaching. When are we going to see what you have to offer as a teacher? And it had never occurred to me. I mean, I don't mean that humbly either. I just was in the dark about that. I thought that I was supposed to be teaching exactly what Suzuki Sensei was teaching. So I was not listening. And I had to the moment, I was parroting what had come before. And it was probably informative, but kind of dull, not very inspired. Because it wasn't inspired. It was, well, I really appreciated it. And so it was okay, I guess, but it wasn't real. And only when I started to learn to listen and be grateful for this moment, for just this that's happening right now, then my teaching changed. So to answer your question, I think that the spirit of the teacher, I think I've probably said this 1,000 times. That's why I said you probably already know. The teacher must not repeat just what someone else says. And it's not a matter of giving somebody else credit. You can use ideas. No, there's no such thing as anything original. So it doesn't really matter that way. You don't have to credit somebody. But whatever it is, it has to be alive and living and allowed to come forth now in this moment. I realize I've said that last sentence right there 1,000 times. It's true, but I said it new to me. See, being natural is like not being artificial. It's being original. There's nothing original in this whole universe. And yet every single aspect of every single moment is unique and original. It's just that we have to live it. It's not that we have to credit. We have to get credit for being original. It's not that kind of original. Or give credit for somebody else. I mean, you can, it's a nice thing to do, it's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. But it's living life now. Or Suzuki would say, living life completely in the present moment. This is his life and death teaching to us. Okay?
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. I hope, see you all on Sunday morning. All right? Don't worry about the